Your local MP is a lot closer to home now, back in their ridings for the next month and a half. Another session of Parliament has wrapped until the end of January. Joining us to discuss some of the highs and lows of this past session and other political headlines of the week, consultant Michael Geoghegan in Victoria, BC. Michael, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So they've all gone home, quite a session. Who do you think comes out with momentum?
Well, it's been very interesting because, of course, going into this session, the Liberals had tremendous momentum. That seems to have slowed somewhat. I would say they still have momentum, but, interestingly enough, the Conservatives, which were in a downward pattern, seem to have stabilized and seem to be undergoing a bit of a recovery.
Okay, let's go through all three parties. With the Tories, highs and lows, what would you say they were?
Well, I think one of the highs is that of the 6 by-elections that were held, the Conservatives managed to hang on to all 4. The Liberals gained a seat at the expense of the NDP. So that's definitely one of the highs for the Conservatives. One of the lows, obviously, there's been a lot of concern about their handling of Veterans Affairs, the minister responsible. There's continuing fallout from the Senate expense scandal. Those would be amongst the lows.
You mentioned Trudeau had a lot of momentum on the polls, weeks and months ago. What about now? Highs and lows for them?
Well, I think he still has momentum, but I think there's a bit of caution. First of all, Canadians are looking for, okay, where are the substantive policy changes? And there's been some missteps. For example, on Middle Eastern policy, he attempted to ridicule the Prime Minister in terms of providing some CF-18s to help fight ISIL. And, and he chose a kind of immature comment to make, which didn't make him look very statesmanlike.
And also the handling of the allegations on the Hill involving 2 MPs as well.
Yeah, again, it seems to have been one where there's also been some internal dissension, again, for that exact reason, as well as with regards to nominations and with regards to whether or not candidates are pro-choice or pro-life. And he's saying, look, if you're not pro-choice, I don't want you as a Liberal candidate. So again, that's caused some internal dissension as well.
Now, Thomas Mulcair and the NDP, they are the official opposition, jumping up and down saying, hey, don't forget us, don't forget us.
Yeah. I know it's got to be extremely frustrating for Mr. Mulcair. I mean, he is the official opposition leader, and historically, if a government's in trouble, the electorate looks to the official opposition. Instead, as I mentioned, they've lost a seat. Their popularity seems to have declined, and unless he can reverse it, I think we're headed to a traditional pattern where the NDP is the third place party.
One of the key policy pushes of this government has been energy. Keystone XL always on the radar, and it seems like they're going at it again next week with another high-profile visit to Washington.
Yeah, and I believe that Alberta Premier Jim Prentice is over to Washington in January. So, yeah, the pressure's on. The Republicans now have control of both the Senate and the Congress. Of course, it's still up to President Obama. He's the person who gets to sign whatever bill. But there'll definitely be another bill coming forward in terms of approving Keystone XL. A lot of pressure on the president to not sign it from, environmental and Aboriginal and other groups. So it'll be an interesting battle to see who prevails.
Absolutely. Michael, thanks very much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.